you okay?
It's been 84 years since the red, white and royal blue movie came out.
I mean, it's only been like a year, but...
84 years!
Alright. Well, did you enjoy it, at least?
Didn't you watch my review? I filmed it the month the movie came out.
No. You never actually posted the video.
What? Why not?
Well, you got really busy and procrastinated editing it. Also, you have the focus of a 5-year-old.
Oh. Right. Well, that makes sense.
You know they're doing a sequel, right?
What?
Yeah, they announced it like last month or something. I don't know what it's going to be about, but there you go.
Oh.
You should probably post that review.
Yeah, I should do that actually. Yeah.
Mm. Hello everyone, and welcome to this review of Red, White and Royal Blue, the movie. I have this beautiful limited edition version of the book. It is everything I could want and more, but I also have the traditional version. So I am a big book person, as you can probably tell by my beautiful rainbow bookshelf behind me. And Red, White and Royal Blue is one of my favourite books of all time. I absolutely love it. I've read it 3 times so far, and I just think it is... It's a masterpiece. So obviously, when I heard that Amazon Prime was producing a movie of this book, I was beyond excited. I didn't want to set my expectations too high because then that only leads to being let down. I am someone that has never really struggled to separate books from movies or TV shows when things are adapted. Like, I'm very good at seeing these things as separate pieces of media, realizing that some things that work really well in a book do not translate very well onto screen. So a lot of the time, things have to be changed in order to make things work, in order to fit a plot into a concise amount of time that you don't really get to explore, whereas you do in a book. There are a plethora of reasons for why changes are made when adapting things. So going into this, I knew that it wasn't going to be exactly like the book. A lot of it is over email. There is a lot of political stuff that might not necessarily be interesting to a lot of viewers who are just in it for like a sort of rom-com-esque kind of deal. Going into it after seeing trailers and sneak peeks, I did start to get quite hyped, but I was like, just chill, okay, keep your expectations low. I have now seen the film 3 times, and I believe that makes me qualified to talk about it, having also read the book 3 times. I do have a lot of criticisms about this movie, but I just want to preface this by saying I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good film. It was funny. I thought it was a good adaptation. It did feel like Red, White and Royal Blue. But that being said, I have a lot of things written here that are not the nicest thing, but I think it's easier to pick up on the negative side of things rather than just being like, I liked this, I also liked this, I also liked this. It's more like the negative things that stand out. So while my review might be quite negative, overall, I did really enjoy the film. There are a lot of really sweet moments, and I did think they did a good job. I just want to say, obviously, this is all my opinions. You can completely disagree with everything I said. That is completely fine. My word is obviously not gospel. So let's just get into it. First of all, I don't know how age rating works in other parts of the world, but in the UK, it's a 12. I find this a bit odd. I don't know if I had a 12-year-old, I would let them watch this movie. Maybe 13, 14, but I would have thought that it would be a 15 because there are some rather detailed, I guess, intimacy scenes. There's the F word. I don't know why I'm censoring myself. Fuck is used multiple times, which I thought just automatically pushes you up to a 15, or does that push it up from a 12A to a 12? I'm not entirely sure how the classification sort of certification. Jesus. I'm not entirely sure how the certification works in the UK, but it kind of surprised me that it was a 12. I'm very aware that I'm using my hands so much, so sorry if that gets annoying. I think we should just address the elephant in the room. Where is June? Where is June? Alex apparently just doesn't have a sister in this universe. She's such an integral part to the book. Like, you've got the White House trio, and Nora felt not as fully rounded of a character without June. I feel like that trio just works so nicely together. There's more to bounce off of. That being said, I do get why a lot of these characters were taken out and storylines were erased because, you know, time, there's only so much to fit in. But June is such a big character. I don't know why she was someone that they decided to get rid of. Another big thing, in my opinion, the book is like 50% politics, 50% romance. That's just the sort of vibes I get, which makes a lot of it confusing to me because I do not understand American politics whatsoever. So it just goes right over my head, but it's enjoyable nonetheless. Whereas the film, because they only had 2 hours or so to portray this love story, they very much decided to go with the love story, which I think is a good idea because if they had included a lot more politics, we wouldn't have seen that love story develop. And it already wasn't that developed. So I completely understand the idea to take a back seat with the politics and focus more on Alex and Henry. However, that did make some of the other political moments feel a bit out of place. Now I've gone over like the big things, let's get into the actual movie. So we start with the wedding, which I get, you know, we're just going straight in there. This is not about the quality of the movie at all. I just have to say that that is the most boring wedding cake I have ever seen in my life. It's just pure white, just completely white. Is that meant to be like, ooh, look how boring the royal family is, la 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 la. And that was £75,000. I don't know about you guys, but when reading the book, I did not picture that much cake. They were swimming in that frosting. I just pictured like a little bit of mess. They just got it on them. But no, which I kind of liked. Like, if you're gonna do the movie, like, go big. Full on cake, splashing everywhere. Are royal staff members allowed to bring their phones? That guy just casually just out of nowhere. And I'm like, surely there are some security measures in place. This is a royal wedding, lots of influential people. Would the staff be allowed their phones? Raises some alarm bells for me. I thought the opening credit scene was quite fun, although the choice of Bad Reputation did make it feel very like early 2000s, early 2010 chick flick. I'm thinking sort of like Wild Child-esque kind of movie, which for me doesn't really fit the vibe of Red, White and Royal Blue. I mean, it was a fun scene, I suppose, and I guess the lyrics work. Now, we have Uma Thurman as Madam President Ellen Clement. I was shook when I saw that casting. I saw someone on Tumblr say that they spent like 80% of the budget getting Uma Thurman and then forgot to make a good movie, which it's a little harsh, but kind of accurate. Just kind of. I always pictured Zara as like blonde with like a really slick bun. I don't know why, but I picture her very deadpan, very so much like and less this sort of like person. But I really did like Zara in the movies. I thought it was a good portrayal. It wasn't what I imagined, but you know, not everything is going to be what I imagine because that's my imagination. But you know, not everything is going to be what I imagine because that's my imagination. That's my imagination. That's my imagination. Why would that directly translate onto screen? It wouldn't. I love that we have a black female prime minister for the UK. Here's a little bit of history for anyone that might not know. The UK have had 3 female prime ministers ever, and they've all been horrendous. I just think it's really great to see a black female prime minister for the UK like that. That was a great casting choice. I think that Alex in the film acts a lot more juvenile than what I imagined him to be in the books. Like that line when he was like, what if I set myself on fire? I was like, is that something Alex would say? It doesn't feel like a very Alex thing to do. Like, act very childish. Like, I always picture him quite mature. This kind of makes me think, like, why didn't they get Casey to write the script or at least help write the screenplay? Because they are their words. And it would have felt a bit more truthful, probably. There was a lot of dialogue that I found quite cheesy and cringy and just very much like, again, like I said, like juvenile banter. I really hate that word, but that's the only way I can describe it. And I think maybe with Casey's influence, it could have been more truthful to the book, but also just more truthful to the characters. Let's take a moment to talk about our Lord and Savior, Amy.
Our Lord and Savior, Amy.
She's possibly my favorite character from the movie. Like, I barely even registered her in the book, I'm not gonna lie. It wasn't until my third time reading it that I sort of realized she existed. I also didn't realize she was trans. Like, I think something in my head, like on the third go around, I remember reading she had like a trans pride pin or something. And I was like, wait, why have I never. But she is an icon and I love her. Like the moment on the plane with like showing Alex her dog. She's just so iconic. She's perfection. Absolutely. I have nothing negative to say about her at all. Here's another thing. This is going to be a lot of like, here's what I thought in the book, and it actually wasn't like that. But I imagine Sean to be like Mr. Bubbles from Lilo and Stitch. And then this sort of like shorter, slim guy turns up, and I was like, oh, okay. Interesting. I didn't mind Sean. He wasn't really in the movie very much, or like a big role at all. I wasn't offended by the portrayal. I think that's the same with quite a lot of characters. They just sort of turn up a little bit and you're like, it's fine. Nothing bad to say, nothing particularly good to say. Those pictures that Alex and Henry have to take when they're first meeting up, nobody would believe that they're friends. They're supposed to create this online presence where everyone's like, yes, bromance of the century, we love them, we love them. And they're literally standing there like, no one's going to be convinced by that. Have you seen social media? Have you seen the way they analyze every little tiny thing? They're like, this person's not happy. Like, I love those edits that people make of celebrities on like the red carpet when they're like it feels like one of those. The interview scene. On interviews for people like the royal family and people in power, aren't there like blacklisted questions when they tell them beforehand, like, you absolutely can't mention this, you can't mention this, you can't mention this? I feel like the Kate Gate situation would be one of those questions. Because isn't the whole thing they're supposed to be drawing attention away from that whole situation and saying, look, we're such good friends, look at us hanging out and la 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 la, let's not mention the cake. But they just come straight out with it. They're like, so how did you end up on the floor covered in cake, guys? How did that happen? And I feel like that wouldn't be allowed. But who knows? I don't know all the ins and outs of the royal family and the American that. So they go to the hospital. It's a really lovely scene in the books. I'm guessing they erased the whole Star Wars thing for like licensing issues, which, you know, I get. Even though it is quite a big part of the book, you know, you have the whole like Han and Leia picture that they do, but that's understandable why they would get rid of that. Can we just talk about how that closet is definitely big enough for two people to comfortably sit in? Like, they could have sat on either wall, even next to each other. There was so much room. The amount of fuss they're making, and it's like, you have so much room to spread out. They could have made it smaller. Just so. I noticed it was interesting that they changed their meeting from the Rio Olympics to like the climate conference in Melbourne. I don't know if that was to make it more relevant to today or what issue they may have had there. Now, here is one thing that I absolutely hate in movies, and they did it all through this film. They were talking so loudly the entire time, especially in the closet scene. There is a possible shooter in this hospital. You have been thrown into this closet for your own safety to hide so you don't get shot. And they're literally having a full-on like argument, shouting. It's like, oh boy, I hope a shooter doesn't find us in here. Me, Prince Henry of Wales, and me, Alex Claremont Diaz, first son of the United States. That would be so bad. I hope they don't find us. It's like, shut up, shh. Do you not realize the situation? Like, obviously it wasn't a real shooter, but it could have been, and then that could have been the end of the movie. Just imagine that. They're just shouting and then blackout. Might be more interesting, maybe. I don't know. I find that look that Alex gives Henry when he's talking to that child in bed, it looks like he's just really confused. And I suppose it could be like a confusion, like, maybe I've been wrong about this guy this whole time. But it felt like it needed more of like a, like, oh, I was wrong about this guy, rather than like, I was wrong about this guy. It looks like he's just really curious. Like, curiouser and curious. Rather than this sort of sweet, more realization moment that I think we could have had. Going back to the characters they've erased, Leo, so they've made Ellen and Oscar not be divorced. Unsure of why they did that. Maybe again just to not complicate the storyline too much, to add that divorce in and add an extra character in. This is Leo erasure, and I do not stand for it. And they've made his dad a bigger character, and I feel like he's sort of taking the place of Raphael Luna, because they've got like a scene where they like smoke together, and that happens with Raphael, and the sun is slowly going down and I'm losing the light. Oh no! For some strange reason, I know that they live in the White House, but I imagined Alex's room to be this tiny, almost like an attic space, like really, really small, with like a little sofa bed in the corner with like a few feet worth of floor space. Obviously, that's not the case, and I knew that, but for some reason, I imagined all of their rooms so small. We have this build up to their relationship, flirting over text, and I like that whole sequence, but I think everyone is sort of in agreement that it feels very rushed. And I've seen a lot of people saying this should have been a TV series instead of a movie. And I do have to agree with that. Obviously, a TV series gives you, it probably would have been like an 8-part series with like 50-minute long episodes. Think of how much you could have done. You could have done everything in the book. As a book lover, you want to see everything in the book come to life. And with a movie, there's less opportunity to do that. I think especially with a book like Red, White and Royal Blue, where so much is dialogue and happens over email, it is less movie-like than, say, something like The Maze Runner, which is action scene, action scene, action scene. You get a few minutes of their text flirting, and then it's sort of like, oh, they're friends. They're really, really quickly friends. And Alex is suddenly calling Henry on the phone, and they're just having a really normal conversation. Like, 10 minutes ago, they were at each other's throats, and they hated each other, and they couldn't stand to be around each other. And now suddenly they're like, hey, man, what's up? And it just feels like we didn't get a slow enough, or I suppose enriched, is that the right word, enough build up to that place of comfortability. So it does sort of just like hit you in the face, like, what, did I miss something? What, when did they become friends? And it makes this shift not feel such big of a deal as I feel like it should. I do like the effect that they had where they put Henry in Alex's bed with like all the butterflies. A bit creepy, but like I like how they did that. It worked, I think, and having them sort of face to face but not actually there, and then having the phone voice effect. But I would have loved to see Henry in bed, face mask on, David on his lap, and again just see more of Henry. Because the book is from Alex's point of view, we do only see these things apart from the bonus chapter we get from Henry's point of view. But the point of having a movie is you suddenly get to explore these other point of views that you might not have. So I think it would have been a really good opportunity to have more of Henry's side in the beginning and not just that shift we get later on in the movie, which I will come to later. But like I've said earlier, because they focus more on the love side rather than the politics scenes we do have feel quite out of place. Like we're doing flirting with Henry and Alex, blah, 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 and then suddenly we're on about Texas. And those scenes just feel very unneeded in a way because they're not fleshed out, because that whole storyline doesn't feel full. It does feel like they shouldn't be in there. It's like either we should focus on the love or on the politics, basically, or have a nice equal amount of both. But because it's mostly love and a little bit of politics, that little bit of politics falls a bit flat for me. I very much related to Henry at that New Year's party. That's exactly how I act. Not that I ever really goes to parties. He's just sort of like, the minute the one person he knows leaves, he's just like, I saw another person talking about this, but the hips moment when he's like, it's all on the hips, baby. That could have been a moment to show us that sort of festering blossoming, that's a better word, festering sounds kind of gross, blossoming attraction that is forming between them, because we can't really see inside their heads like you can in a book. There needs to be more physical moments that actually show that. And that could have been a really good moment to be like, okay, there's a boy I like and he's touching me, oh god. Or for Alex to show something even though he's kind of drunk. Because right now it kind of just feels like they're mates, like they're getting along and they're friends, but I haven't really seen much of a romantic connection. Instead, it just felt like a really weird moment of him just going, like, well, whose choice was that? I did think it was really cute when Henry's sort of like just dancing and jigging and he's just trying to awkwardly get through it. I was like, I feel you, buddy. I feel you. That was a very sweet moment. This is completely offside, but I noticed that one of the extras in that party is someone I used to know and like do theatre with. And I was just like, is that what it is? Interesting. I absolutely love the snowy tree. Just the whole look of that scene aesthetically is just so beautiful. Completely different to how I imagined it in my head, but nonetheless stunning. I did think, the first kiss moment was very sweet and, it's a kiss. What more can you say? But again, I felt like there needed to be a bit more tension to, I suppose, make the kiss more obvious that it was going to happen. Just more of an indication that that's where Henry's head was at and that Alex might also like it. Although in the book, that is Alex's moment of sort of awakening and being like, oh, maybe I do like Henry. Wait, what? But I did enjoy that scene. I thought it was very sweet with the snow coming down. It was a very tender moment. And I don't want to talk about it. Don't look at me. So they've changed Pez to like Nora instead of June because June doesn't exist in this universe, which doesn't bother me too much. But that whole arc wasn't developed at all. We don't see anything come of it. And I just feel like if you're not going to develop it, why put it in there in the first place? I would have liked to have seen that relationship develop a bit more, or even just something a bit extra, but as it was, it never went anywhere. You can really see my nips through the shirt. Wow. I'm just gonna... There we go. I sometimes like those moments in movies where they're having a very serious conversation and then someone walks in out of nowhere to do something, like, they just print something off or something and the characters awkwardly have to like stand around and wait for that person to leave. Like, those moments can be absolutely golden in something. But why did that random campaign lady come in the middle of the conversation? It didn't add anything to the scene. It was just a really awkward moment of her coming in and going, oh, and then left. Nothing. Didn't need it. Cut it. Cut it. All I have written next is Amy is yet again an icon. I don't know what I'm referring to, but past me was correct. You know what? I think it's about the scene where Alex is like, I need some help. And then she's like, where's the threat? And he's like, no. That leads me on to the Red Room scene. It felt very short. It was very much, oh, hello, I kiss you. What? Okay, I kiss you. We kiss for like 2 seconds and then that's it. I did, however, love the interruption. Amy coming in like, oh, okay, and then and then Henry's just like, I thought that was really, really funny. One of my favourite moments in the movie, actually. But then we just came out of that. We didn't have any sort of conversation about what does this mean, like, how are we feeling? Also, not to be crude, but if you're Big Ben, as they put it in the movie, Stonehenge, why are you walking out into a room full of, like, world representatives? Or were they joking about that? Because I feel like they should have maybe waited until the situation was rectified. So we just have to kiss, and then they're kind of both chill. But it feels like Henry is dealing with all this like deepness. I would have liked to see something that Alex says to him, just to reassure him that he's like, you don't have to worry, like, I'm fully in this. We can do this. Something. Just a little nugget of something. Once again, in a room full of representatives, talking very loudly about the intimate acts they plan to do later that night. Lower your voices, gentlemen. Please. That's all I ask. Again, another very short intimacy scene. I'm not someone that's like, we need more sex scenes. They feel oddly short. One of the lines from the book that I wish they kept in, something along the lines of when Henry's gonna leave, And Alex goes, "You just have my dick in your mouth. You can kiss me goodbye." I love that line. It's just so funny, and it so encapsulates everything that is their relationship. You know, it's flirty, it's fun. I think that would have been a really good line to add in. But the sofa scene, when they released that little clip, like a week or so, a couple days before the film came out, that was the scene that really got me excited, because I was worried that the two main actors wouldn't have enough chemistry. But after seeing that scene, I was like, okay, I'm not worried anymore. I'm very, very excited, because they have a lot of chemistry in that scene. I really enjoyed the chat on the sofa. Bit where Henry's like, "Would you want to come to the polo match?" And then he like explains, he's like, "That's good because you're not going to be playing, I'm going to be playing." We could have cut that shorter. Could have had some more lines in, like the dick line, which I think is really funny. That brings us on to the polo scene. I love me some bagpipes. I love bagpipes. That's just completely off the cuff, but I really like the music choice for that scene. Also, what is England? Who are we? Why are we like this? Polo is such a weird sport. It's stupid. I did like the way that that was shot. Could have spent less time on the horses and more time in the tack room. Now we get to the Paris scene when they're... I hate the phrase "make love" with a passion. So when Henry was like, "I think we should make love tonight," I went, get me out. Get me out of here. I hated it so much. I went to an English boarding school, dear. Trust me, you're in good hands. Great line. I said earlier about how I felt like the intimacy scenes were really, really short. This one felt uncomfortably long. I know, I'm never happy, am I? You can't please me at all. But it just felt like it went on for too long. Did we really need a shot of their hands holding and then their hands going away? It could have been half as long. It's an important scene. I love seeing queer love, queer intimacy, and normalizing it. That's the thing. It needs to be normalized because it is so normal and it's beautiful and it needs to be on screen. But it could have been just a little bit shorter. That's all. Like that one's shorter and the other one's a little bit longer, and I think I would have been a bit happier. I think I touched on this in the beginning, but the emails are barely in the film. We only hear their email conversations while Alex is in Texas for that little montage scene, which is odd because to me the emails are what make Red, White and Royal Blue Red, White and Royal Blue. But it is understandable. That is a hard thing to translate to screen unless you actually like want to show the emails or have, like they did, have them as voiceovers, but then it can get a bit repetitive and a bit tedious for an audience member just watching and listening to these emails being read out. So I get it. I get why the emails weren't a big part. That being said, I think they could have chosen some more impactful emails from the book. Like, they have cut out the whole thing of, like, sending each other quotes from people in love. They could have chosen more romantic ones rather than just being like, "Alex, you're a good guy. I believe in you." The coming out scene between Alex and his mum was really sweet, actually. It's really nice to just see a parent have, like, a completely normal, chill reaction and then have that, like, bonding moment on the sofa. We didn't get a PowerPoint, but it was still a really lovely scene. I thought it was a bit odd, Ellen saying, "You have to tell your father." It's like, Alex is an adult. This is his coming out. And even though Oscar probably wouldn't be weird about it, and, you know, Alex wouldn't be worried about his father's reaction, it still feels like something he needs to do on his own time because he's already had to rush telling his mum because otherwise Zara would have told her. It just feels like everyone's like, "You need to tell this person. You need to tell this person." It's like, come on, let him come out on his own time. Like, that's the whole point of the thing. It's about having that privacy and being able to come out on your own time, which is ripped away from them for both of them, to the entire world. That being said, if Alex didn't want to come out to his dad and didn't feel ready, I don't think he would have. I kind of love that Henry's like a good singer because in the book, obviously, he's meant to be horrendous, and Nicholas I'm not sure, is a good singer. And I think he was trying to make him sound worse than he is because Henry's meant to be drunk and, you know, there were some dodgy notes on purpose. I kind of love the idea that Henry is secretly like this really good singer and just like fucking bosses it at karaoke. The lake scene when they are on the little raft It feels less special setting it in the day. Maybe this is just me, because I hate the sun and the day, but it feels so much more intimate, so much more private. Night, you know, they're sneaking off together to go swim in the dark, and it's like bright daylight. There's something about the cover of Night that feels very secretive and sort of a bit. Maybe this was for, you know, it's easier to shoot things in the day. It just felt a bit less special. I like that we then get the switch to Henry's POV in Buckingham Palace, and we see him with B, and we get David! David! If Amy's the MVP of the movie, then there's David, and I wish we had more David Dog. It wouldn't have added to the story at all. It would have been completely unnecessary, except it would have been completely necessary because David the dog is the best. So we get to switch to Henry, but I wish, like I said, we had some more interspersed throughout the movie earlier. I think it is so important that Henry put it out there that he was like, I can still love you and not want that life. Because that is so true. You know, sometimes love just is not enough in a relationship, and he shouldn't have to put himself through anything like that just because Alex loves him and he loves Alex and they want to make it work, and sometimes you can't make it work. And I think that's a very important message to put out. A lot of the time in romance films, we get this whole love conquers all, and you should give up your job and you should move away and blah 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 because of love. Even if it's really really toxic, you should stay together because you love each other. And it's like, no, 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 that's not right. I'm not saying that Alex and Henry are toxic. I'm just saying that this situation wasn't particularly ideal for Henry. But it all worked out in the end. And obviously, I'm glad that it did. But I think that was a very important thing for him to say. I felt like there should have been something to break the tension in that rain scene, because in the book, you know, they sleep together. I don't know, like a kiss or a hug or anything, because that is such a high intensity scene. There's so much adrenaline, and they're crying and they're shouting and they're saying these incredible heartfelt things, and then it's suddenly just like it's this big climax of the scene of like, is Henry going to take him back? Is Henry going to take that chance? And then it's like, I need to show you something, let's go to a museum. It's like, I feel like there should have been something to like, whoa, to break that and say, yes, we are going to do it. Because otherwise it just sort of is like, hi, 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 hi. And then we do get history, huh? Bet we could make some. But it's such a tiny moment. And obviously they've erased like the whole everyone making t-shirts of history, how to show the support. It's a big part, but at least we got it. Even if it was just a tiny thing, at least it was in there. I mean, they couldn't not put it in there because there would have been riots. Here is one of my biggest quarrels about the movie. All of these things have been little nitpicky things, things I'm not too bothered about, things I would have liked, things I imagined differently. This is one of the big things that I'm like, I really don't like this. Again, this is just my opinion, but I feel like they shouldn't have made the villain, or I suppose the anti-hero, the antagonist, the gay guy, the gay Latina guy. I'm not saying that every queer person, that every minority, every person of color is a good person, and that they should never play villains and they should never be seen in a bad light, blah, blah, blah. I'm not saying that in any way, shape, or form, but it feels like in a film like this, don't make him the one that leaks the emails, or at least that's the impression that I got from it. They certainly hinted and implied that he's the one that leaked the emails, or found a way to leak the emails and was working against Alex. Because it's like they had this connection, both queer, both people of colour, and then it's like, oh, I'm going to out you. It seems so weird. Whereas in the book, it's like Richard's, you know, he's the straight white cis man that we need to take down. And it just fuels it more of why we're supposed to dislike this. And my friend actually made a really good point, because otherwise we don't know why we're rooting for Ellen. Like, obviously she's a female president, which is brilliant. She's Alex's mum, you know, she's the protagonist's mum, and we want to root for Alex and Alex's family to succeed. We don't know what her policies are. We don't know what Richards is like apart from that one little scene. Richards could be a really, really nice person. He could make America a great place. But we don't see anything that should show us that we should dislike him, other than the fact that he's a guy. Which sometimes is enough. But without him being the one to leak the emails, it just feels so wrong to me. Like, it doesn't sit right with me that they've got Miguel as the anti-hero.
It's editing Sam here. I just want to reiterate, I think queer people and marginalized groups and minorities should be playing villains. They should be playing bad people. I think that we need more of that. I just think in this context, it was an odd choice to not make it Richards. That's all I'm saying.
Just feels like an odd choice, especially coming from a queer Latino director as well. But it's sort of like in Queer as Folk with the whole Stockwell storyline. It's like Stockwell doesn't seem like that bad of a guy, and then you sort of see his opinions and the whole story about him covering up. Not to spoil things if you haven't seen Queer as Folk, which you should, but there's something that's revealed about him that has been covering up, and then it's this whole Stop Stockwell, and I got so invested in that election. That's what you want, because you need a reason to not root for someone. You need a reason to dislike them, and they didn't really give us a reason to dislike Richards. I think Alex's little speech was good. I like that he said, this is not about shame, this is about privacy. That's a brilliant point. But I find it weird that he did that speech without consulting Henry, because it's so beautiful in the books. They do it together. They do it as a couple. They say, we're doing this? Are we sure we're going to become public about this? Okay, we're doing this. But it's sort of just like he throws it all out there. He's like, I love Henry and Henry loves me and we've been together. And he hasn't even talked to him at all. And that feels very weird to me. Alex saying when he misses Henry and he's like, he does this really cute thing when he's worried, he like furrows his eyebrows. It's like, I hate to break it to you, honey, but pretty much everyone does that. That's not special to Henry. It's a sort of universal sign of worry, but okay. My God. Similarly to the Nora and Pez storyline, I don't think we ever see Sean and Zara interact this entire movie, which just makes their relationship feel so out of the blue. Whereas in the books, it's like, oh my God, they're dating, because we actually see them interact. And now it's like, oh, I didn't know that they even knew each other, so it doesn't feel like a big deal. These two characters, one of them that I know, one of them that I don't really know, have been like hooking up. Okay, great. That hug on the stairs when they meet each other and they just like fall into each other's arms. I absolutely loved that moment. It was so sweet. It was just like finally they feel at home again and safe in each other's arms. And that was a really, really beautiful moment. Another change they made was to make a king instead of a queen. Excuse me, my cat is licking my feet. I have some theories as to why that choice was made. I think either Stephen Fry asked to be involved with the project, or like they asked him because he's often in a lot of things like that, like, you know, he's the headmaster in Heartstopper, or I can't remember the exact time frame of when they filmed this movie or like planned it out. But if it was before the Queen died, then maybe they wanted to have more of a separation from the real royal family, because they changed him from being a Windsor to Hanover Stuart. Maybe there was some legality about it that they didn't want to seem too similar to the actual royal family. Or they filmed it after the Queen died, and so they didn't want to do a Queen when the country's so fresh from the death of the Queen. Not that the majority of the country would care, but it could just be like a respect thing. I did kind of like the king though. He was kind of an icon. Homophobia aside. Obviously, if he was a real person, I would despise him. But as a character, I think he was quite fun. Like, I did like that whole silence where he's just moving around and he's like, and then he goes and gets a drink. And I love that he referred to Alex as the American. He was like, leave and take the American with you. The final scene with the election, it felt very underwhelming. Again, because the whole politics side of this film was not really developed that much. Like, we do have the whole thing of Alex going to Texas and spending all this time in Texas registering voters. So it felt like a very odd choice to me to have Alex out of the room when the election is announced, because it's that moment of seeing Texas go blue. It is blue, right? I'm not American. It confuses me. I'm pretty sure we're rooting for the blue. It's that moment in the book of like, bling, oh, we did it. We won. But it's kind of just like they're in the other room and they hear a cheer and they run in. They're like, oh, it happened. And it just felt, there should have been that moment of like that tense, like, waiting. And we did it. We did it, Joe. I think it's very hard to end things like this. Even in the book, I think the ending is quite abrupt, but that's kind of the same for most books. But it just felt like, again, a bit underwhelming. To take Henry to his Texas house, I feel like that idea wasn't built up on that much, so it didn't feel as impactful. But I mean, there is the whole running thing with the keys, so I suppose, we know that it's important. And they did say in the emails, I can't wait to take you to Texas and all that. But I think that is all I have to say about the movie. I know this review seems very, very negative, but I promise I did enjoy the movie. I've seen it 3 times. I will watch it more, probably. Was it my favourite thing in the world? No. Were there things I wanted to change? Obviously. But there was only like 1 or 2 things that actually bothered me. The rest is just little things that I picked up on. Like I said, 2 separate pieces of media. It's more like inspired by the book. And I thought the casting was great. I thought the acting was great. And I thought the whole look of the film was very well done. And overall, a good movie. I wasn't too disappointed. It is just a lot easier to focus on the negative points, which is sort of what I've done here. If you are watching this and you have never read the book, what are you doing? Get out and buy a copy if you don't have one already and just sit and read it, because it is simply incredible. One of the best books I have read, and I love it very much. I will always love the book. The book is so much better than the film. So much better. Like, because the movie was good, but the book is like, it's like you can't even, like, there it is. But that is it for me now. I'm sorry for talking your ear off. I had a lot to say. I had a lot of opinions. I wave goodbye to you now. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a like and hit subscribe if you'd like to, because I will be talking about more book things, and I do quizzes, and just generally, I make whatever I want on here, basically. By the way, I'm not like a huge patriot. I stole this from a churchyard on the last Jubilee before the Queen died. So that's just why I have this, and I thought it was very fitting. But I'm not like, woo, the UK. On that note, I'll say goodbye. UK attack. Da-na-na-na-na-na. That was really fucking dumb. Bye.